Before we begin, this space is not about belittling, attacking, or tearing anyone down. However, if you can fit the shoe, you should wear it and shut the fuck up forever. My channel is about awareness, reflection, black upliftment, and black joy. What's shown here is shared under fair use for reflection, commentary, and awareness. It's basically my opinion mixed with some facts. Now let's get into it. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Black Opinionated Facts. I am your host and favorite melanated queen, Tori. Okay, so I have said this phrase a lot. I have heard this phrase a lot. We are not our ancestors. Yuck. I cringe when I say it now. When you know your history, when you know the history, when you know their history, and you don't cringe saying that, I think something is wrong. We are not our ancestors, and that's exactly why they deserve our utmost respect. So the fight is completely different. Our ancestors were fighting for survival. They were fighting to build the foundation that we stand 10 toes down on now. They were fighting to build that foundation. They were fighting for survival. And now we have what doesn't seem like a privilege all the time, but it absolutely is the privilege to fight for a better quality of life. It's a completely different fight. And one fight wouldn't be able to happen if the other fight didn't happen. Like, I just feel like once you learn, and I said that I used to say that before I knew a lot of our history, not just what was taught to me in school, because we know, right? Although we go through a lot of things, and although we still have to deal with police brutality during our protests and things like that, in comparison to what our ancestors experienced, it's nothing. And to be able, right, to be able to fight for our dignity meant that somebody had to create even the doorway. The access had to be fought for us to be able to to fight for a better quality of life. They fought to survive so that we can fight to strive. They fought to survive so we can fight to thrive. The fights were different, both important, but the fights were different. And again, I just feel like when you know your history, standing on their foundation still to this day, while saying, we're not our ancestors, as if they were weak, is crazy. That's one of the reasons why I absolutely love people who say things like, nobody go to work for a whole week and things like that, because though they have the spirit of our ancestors. We have to think about what was the strategy and what was sacrificed for some of those things they did, like the boycott. People always talk about the bus boycott, the Montgomery bus boycott. People always talk about that, and how they did the sit-ins and all those things. But you got to think about how long that boycott lasted. It lasted for over 300 days. I think it was 380 to be exact. I might be wrong though, but I know it was over 300 days, over a year that lasted. What do you think that they were doing in those, like, that whole time? People lost their jobs. People had to walk. Like, it was a lot of sacrifices happening even behind that. We have to remember that they were organizing, and they were organizing under extreme stress. Talking about survival mode now, I couldn't imagine. We're talking about systems. We're talking about fights that still protect us right now. Fair Housing Act, Civil Rights Act, um, Voting Act. We're talking about all of these things that we still use. Those were our starting lines, y'all. Like, they didn't have those things. They didn't inherit those things. We did. We inherited those things, and it's almost like a slap in the face when you say that, like, especially if you have if you know some things and you say that, it's kind of like a slap in the face. Like, okay, so why don't you start all the way from where they started then? And then I want to hear you talk that talk. All of the protesting and the march movements or demonstrations, March on Washington, Selma to Montgomery, those movements were so massive that we still hold tight to the weight today. The weight still falls on everybody today because of what they did. We are living in their outcomes. We're reaping the benefits of what they did. Birmingham campaign. Our ancestors were not passive, but the weight was so damn heavy. The battles were so foundational that we live in their outcomes. Those are their outcomes. Some of them didn't even get to enjoy the work they've done. How dare you? And when you know all of that, and you still use that phrase, it's just like, people think about those marches, and we talk about those marches, and every Black History Month, we re-listen to those speeches and we watch it over, but we don't think about the risk, and when you say stuff like, we're not our ancestors, I need you to provide the proof then. I need to see the holes shooting you from this side to that side up against a brick wall. I really don't want to see that happen to none of my people, but I'm saying, like, if you're going to say that, where is the proof to back it up that you're not our ancestors? Where is the proof that you've done more than them, or that you aren't weak or passive like you're saying that they were? Where's the proof? Because now we got phones to record everything, so let me see you. So I have a question to the people who use that phrase. What structures and policies have you fought for to leave to the next generation? And like, I got smoke for everybody but my people. When I'm talking directly to my people, it's a conversation. It's a conversation. It's a discussion. It ain't that. I really do want to know what because I feel like when you say that, you might be one of the ones who kind of, kick it in the cut. And I was one of the ones who kicked it in the cut too. The only difference between when I was kicking it in the cut and I was doing a lot of learning, I also shut the fuck up. I did. Like, you wouldn't catch me in people's comment section like, well, I think Black people need to do like, and I'm still a little timid about speaking a little bit too much, too comfortably while I'm still learning and unlearning. Right. But to the people who say that, that's a bold ass statement, especially again, like it's too much information floating around. So when you say that with all of this information floating around, I do really want to know, like, what will your grandchildren, our grandchildren inherit based on what we fought for? Because my grandchildren will still benefit if things are going, a better way, but my grandchildren will still benefit from the things my ancestors did. So I couldn't possibly use that phrase after knowing all that I know. No, come on. No. I don't know. I think that's wild, but to wrap it all up, we are not our ancestors. No, we're not. But again, I think that's why they deserve the utmost respect. And I want to leave with this. Don't mistake our inherited freedom for the self-created freedom. Because they had to create self-created freedom, we inherited freedom, and it feels like nothing when you're just born into it. People died for us to be able to talk freely over a mic. People died. Huh? Guys, people died for us to be able to live wherever we chose to live. Fair Housing Act went from, the question went from, can we live here, to where do we want to live? Where do we want to live? And don't mistake our ancestors' survival level of, I don't want to call it meekness, restraint, for a weakness. I don't want to call them meek. I don't feel like they were meek. I feel like they were being smart. They were strategizing to stay alive. And I feel it's so yucky hearing that phrase come from people, especially people who are in generations above me. And so I've heard that since this whole thing has been happening, and the thing with Cyrus, rest in peace. I keep hearing that phrase. I keep seeing that phrase written in the comment sections, and I'm just like, ew, guys, come on. But that's all I got for this video. This is Black Opinionated Facts, where knowledge meets perspective, and perspective changes everything. Peace.